We are back for episode 3. I'm getting filmed. We are here talking about films, talking about web, talking about webcasts, which is the main focus of this episode. How to do a webcast. You're streaming. It's certainly the new technology. And joining us to talk about that, Tom Sullivan, who's one of the directors for Coachella, which is the largest concert in the world.
I don't know that for a fact, but you might.
I do know that. In terms of revenue that it brings in,
I think it's the biggest on Instagram.
It's
and that's all that matters.
$100 million economic impact. You certainly know if you're a previous watcher, Ben Ganz, who ran digital media for American Idol, as well as Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Network. And I'm your host, Michael Klaus. Guys, we want to be able to take you on the backside of all these things you see in Hollywood, be able to show you how to do a lot of these. In previous episodes, talked about how to be able to pitch your content. Today, again, focusing on how to do a webcast. People think of webcast. Tom, what do people think of webcast versus what is webcasting in your opinion?
Well, I think when people think of webcasts, I think their mind either goes to like really low budget and kind of like a tinker toy thing, or they go really high like it's a broadcast show. So I think when people think webcasts, I think everyone's head is all over the place right now. I think the webcast is a wild west. I think no one knows where to go with it. I don't know.
I totally agree. I mean, I remember when Facebook launched Live,
Yeah.
and that put live streaming on the map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Facebook Live, Twitter Live, Periscope, YouTube Live. Like, it all came out there. Everyone tried to do it. Everyone realized it was actually really hard. And here we are now. Everyone's kind of getting back into it. Numbers on the rise. But it was super popular. It went down a little bit, and now it's on the rise again.
I think it's a lot similar to in film when the DSLRs kind of came out, and everyone was like a filmmaker, which is cool. I'm sure there's a lot of content that we would not have seen without it, but I'm sure half of it we probably should not have seen. But I think having the webcast thing is like the live broadcast version of the DSLR, and everyone's doing it, and it's cool. There's lots of things that are coming out.
Well, I think the benefit, you know, people can look at that and talk about the oversaturation, and if you're way high up, you're like, oh, now everyone's doing it. But I think everyone doing it and realizing maybe how hard it is to do it well gives them a new appreciation.
Yeah, you'd hope. Yeah,
you would hope.
Yeah.
So talk about, we talked about Coachella. I want to be able to talk about that first off and your role in that as one of the directors of Coachella. Yeah. Again, this is a music festival that's next year will be 20 years old. Started in 1999.
Wow. I didn't even realize that.
And has been going 2 weekends now for the last 5 or 6 years. Was a 3-day show. And a lot of people don't know this. First year, 1999, they actually lost over $800,000. People think Coachella, it has a $700 million economic impact today. First year, lost over $800,000. They certainly built it up. Long time ago to what it is today, an incredible difference.
Yeah.
Talk about Coachella now, there, and the live stream impact of Coachella.
So I don't know off the top of my head how many views it has, but I know of a lot of people all over the world that watch it. Like they'll hang out on their computer and they'll kind of see it. And it's cool because of all the stages that they have, there's music there all day, all night. And then there's one channel, I think there's maybe 2, that they moderate what they want on it. So on the webcast, you're seeing the best of the best, which is cool. I mean, I feel like a lot of other webcasts, you're live all day. So when they're changing the set, they're like, holy crap, I don't know where to go. But I think they have a lot of content, and then they try and film things in between. So after a set, they don't just hop onto the nether. They'll throw to my host or something, and they'll be like, hey, you just saw whoever coming up next is such and such. I'm here live now for a chat with, Mr. Ben Ganz.
It's more of programming and an actual show style.
Exactly. I think they do webcasts more of like a broadcast, which is, as we know, obviously a lot of things it's a broadcast, but web is now just transmission. So they absolutely treat it as if it's a broadcast with the pieces, and then the hosts on the run, what's going on with the fashion, food at all of Coachella. I think a lot of other places, they film all that and they upload it later. Coachella tries to turn it around like a proper show, and it goes right into the EVS, and they edit it quickly, and it goes in. So it's a really cool show to sit and watch all day. It's not a boring webcast.
How much preparation is going into that for the 3 days that you're doing webcasting, the 6 days of the total show? How much preparation are you months in advance planning out?
Personally, I am months out. It's not intense like every day for a month, but it's like what's happening, what's changing. We need the lighting order. For my set, it's heavy with like lighting and things like that. So it's kind of like, dealing with the budget and then where we go. So where you film in Coachella, the grounds is extremely important. You can't destroy any of the grass. Everything has to be approved. You can't dig a trench without anything. So even sliding a plant over, it's like you have to get everything approved. So pre-production is intense. Yeah, it's a lot.
So do you have to choose your cameraman, choose your lighting guys? Like take us from the real details.
Okay, cool.
They're like, hey, Tom, you're directing Coachella.
Sure.
Then what?
So I do their interview set. So I do the lighting also. So heavy background for me with cinematography. So I will do, I'll ask them, where is it? Where is the sun? Where can we go? What's in the background? The background's important. We shouldn't be here because it's a white background, whatever. And then once I have an idea of that, the lighting order, what's happening, where it's going, how many cameras, that probably gets finalized in the middle of pre-pro. Sometimes they're bouncing with, 3 or 4 cameras, maybe 5. And then I hire my guys. I get everything set up. Script is involved. What are we doing? Sometimes they want to kind of change the set. They want to be able to shoot here, and then at the end of the night, they want to turn everything around. So what has to be on wheels? They treat that set like a film set with like lots of stands and silks. So it's kind of a hybrid of like, okay, we need to move quick. And it's like, well, wait, we have C-stands all over the place. It's like a hybrid live show. So it's cool, but they expect to move quick, and like the quality that they want needs to be more of like a film set. Like as the sun sets, we're changing the color temperature of all the lights. We can't hold off. They're like, we have to film it. So knowing where the sun is, all that, it's, and then once we get there, all hands on deck, man.
And how many hours every day is that live cast?
I think we film from maybe 11 a.m. to maybe 9 or 10 p.m.
Wow.
Yeah. So interviews all day. They try and have it blocked out. And no one does interviews late at night because all the artists are basically intoxicated, or so you hope. So all of the managers are like, after 9, they're like, I'm not going to tell him to do an interview.
Artist.
Yeah. Yeah. So
what does the hierarchy look like in the production staff?
The hierarchy of the production staff. So there's Golden Voice, which is, I think they own like the brand.
They do, yeah.
Coachella. It's their brand, right?
Yep. They were one of the original founders in 1999.
And they are guests at the Indio, what would you call it?
It's like
grounds?
Polo
yeah,
grounds.
Yeah.
Polo grounds or
The
something.
polo
I'm sure they
grounds.
pay them a
Yep.
ton of money. But as I said, they're very specific about what can be built. I mean, they even go so far where like forklifts, they have to put a sock on the tires after a certain time, because they're like, no damaging the grass. When the guests come in, we want the grass green and lush. So they, it's intense. Yeah.
What about, you said there are multiple directors, EPs, like what does that look like? What are the production meetings like?
Yeah,
I'm curious.
so there are 2 main EPs, and they basically plan all of the content. I mean, they already know who's on stage when, and they know that they'll have all of this, and I think they're planning basically what goes in between. Like if we know Beyonce is about to go on, you probably want some content that has that included. You want to kind of tie the pieces together. Those 2 EPs also essentially I mean, hire all of the crew and order all of the gear. Like, I'm pretty sure they even build the stages too. Like, I mean, obviously they have some people in it, but I'm pretty sure they say like who's gonna build the stages with obviously the approval of their client, and they hire all of the union crew to like, maybe like forklift drivers, the cameramen, utilities, all that. And then I think Golden Voice's job is like, who are like the food trucks and the vendors and what's the art happening and all that. But I think the 2 EPs also have a say in like all the photographers too. I'm sure Golden Voice has.
I mean, this seems like this is like the highest level of web production. Am
Yeah.
I right on that? I mean, people think web production, like we were talking about earlier,
big.
you do Facebook Live and people have Instagram Live where they're just doing, on their phones. But this is like multi-camera. This is multiple hosts, multiple production teams. This is as high as it gets for webcasting.
It's huge. And I'm pretty sure they start planning the next year after that day wraps. Like, I'm pretty sure that's...
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're like, okay, we need to change this. And each year, so I've been doing it for 4 years, maybe 3 or 4 years. It gets a little bit better. Things are kind of moved because, cable runs and things like that, and where things go and where you sign in and sign out and the food. I will say the catering tent is incredible. Oh, it's some of the best catering. Yeah.
Favorite food
awesome.
you got?
There at Coachella, I mean, they have like a donut thing, like all the kinds of donuts. They have like an omelet thing, I think, and pizza and fish and meat, and you got to have your vegan options for the LA crew driving down.
I want to chime in that the main thing about the Coachella live stream is that it's a partnership with Google, with YouTube, right? And it's unlike any other stream on the internet, in my opinion. They custom build out a web page within YouTube. It has a little API where you can switch stages. You can choose your stages. Nobody gives any other stream like that any attention like the YouTube one. And it's promoted so heavily on their front page everywhere. So they have the whole backing of Google. But, it's like a symbiotic relationship because everyone wants to see Coachella, so they're going to come to YouTube. And Coachella wants everyone to see it, so they have YouTube doing that for them.
And I have this suspicion that, I mean, maybe not so much YouTube now that they've been around longer, but they kind of want to test the load. Like, they kind of want to test, we kind of want to test this thing out. So it's in their benefit to have it obviously on their platform, but I think behind the scenes they're like, let's see what we can get away with. Like, let's see how many views we can get away with. And
what's the monetary amount?
Facebook totally does that at like 100%. I think because their platform is new and they're doing like 720 a lot, they absolutely are trying to get more people to do their content there to kind of test the waters. But
so monetary, what does it cost to watch Coachella on YouTube?
Think it's free.
Is it free?
Yeah, it's free.
I think
so how
is
is that money made?
I'm sure there's like an ad roll in the beginning.
Is it just the ads?
So it's sponsored by T-Mobile.
Okay.
They pay a whole lump sum of money, and it's most
commercials
certainly
are in the actual show rundown too, but I think there's an ad server thing.
Commercial, but you're gonna see a bug the whole time of T-Mobile. It's T-Mobile branded everywhere, and they pay a ton of money. And I think it's a win-win for the brand and for the festival. Everyone wins at this live stream, in my opinion. The brand gets a Coachella audience. Like, that's arguably the most influential audience out right now. This Coachella, I saw a graph. And the attendance kind of fluctuated right before selling out. And you can see on the chart where exactly they started live streaming, and it went straight up and sold out every year after that. I think it's pretty incredible.
Well, because around the world, I mean, and this is why webcasts, I mean, traditionally you would have to have it on a network. You would have to pay for commercials. You would have to sell it to someone. You would have to pitch it. It would be this huge thing. And now it's just live on the internet, and the whole world can see it in Germany or something. And they're like, oh, damn, I have to go to Coachella. I mean, that's what people here also do. They see like a music festival somewhere in Europe, and they're like, wow, I absolutely have to go to that.
I think a lot of people could see it as...
It's an ad.
A lot of people could see it as hurting the content of saying, oh, well, they don't have to come here because they can just catch it online. But there is the reverse.
That's Hollywood 1.0. This is Hollywood 2.0. That's what everyone's finally starting to figure out.
Music festivals is, I mean, look, if you're watching sports, right? Sports, you can argue, is an incredible experience to watch at your television.
Yep.
You see a close-up of the coach. You see the player who just, like, lost the game. You see the crowd. It's awesome. Music festival, though, I mean, you have to be there for live music and to, like, experience what's happening and all the art.
That's such a great example.
Yeah.
It's FOMO.
Literally, it's sports in that regard.
Yeah, it's like, of course I want to see a close-up of this guy, like, no, and then a close-up of the other guy, this, and then that, and the back. It's like, yeah, it's awesome. There's actually, there's a mini documentary that The Verge did about, like, broadcasting the NFL and, like, all the trucks it takes and all that. And the director, I forget his name, he was saying, like, a touchdown happens. Who do I show? Do I show the coach where this was his last chance and he's about to get fired? Do I show the quarterback this is his last game? Do I show the defender who cost his team the game? Split second, you have to show it. So you have to know the story of, is this team's first time in the championship? Is it? So it's a cool, like, sports is so
Totally
awesome
produced.
watching online or
Totally produced.
watching on your television. Music is cool, but it's an ad to get you excited. You're like, that set was awesome. I can't wait to go to Coachella next year. So, yeah.
And so, do you know this? When I started Vigo, I called up every single festival in America. I said, let's
Nice.
live stream.
Yeah.
Every single
No.
one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how long ago was that? And
This
what
was
vision did you see at that point?
2016. And I saw
Wow.
the Coachella live stream,
Yeah.
and I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to be doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. You would be so surprised at how many people thought it was going to cannibalize their ticket sales.
Oh, that's
It was shocking.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, because think about it, right? Anyone who's watching that stream either probably can't afford to go there, doesn't know about it, or, like, doesn't want to
Yep.
rough it. You know, maybe they're 35 years old and they don't want to be, like, sweating around these
Totally.
18-year-old ravers, something like that. But they
and you
want
don't
to check
want
out
those
some
people
music.
there. I'm sure that brand doesn't want those people there anyway. They want young, beautiful, cool people in the biz to go there and Instagram it and
Exactly. So if they
advertise for
could-
them more. It's just
Yeah, if these people, people like us, if we could go there, we would. Like, if I could go to Yacht Week right now, or Ultra Tokyo, that'd be awesome. But I can't go to every festival.
Yeah.
There's a festival every weekend, and I still want to know, like, what are the Chainsmokers going to drop? Are they going to play a new song? Like, everybody wins, and it was very, very hard to convince festivals that.
You realize that you're not choosing one over the other. You're not
Exactly.
you're not able to do one, and so that's the only option left.
Yeah, and again, a festival can do this, like, if it's awesome and you hire the right team and crew, then the person watching is like, I have to be there. I absolutely have to be there. It's just a whole extra level of ad. And I don't think as many people would have heard about Coachella. You're absolutely right. I mean,
Yeah, the numbers don't lie. Like,
I don't think
Yeah.
anyone
real.
would know
The
about it.
worldwide impact.
Yeah.
I mean, like you're saying, people in
huge.
Germany, in
Yeah.
London, wherever can look at me like, this is happening, and
Yeah.
outside California, in Indio, California.
And that helps them to build an artist list and the set, and everything washes everyone else's hands, and everything helps everybody. Yeah.
Because you're right, because that
you're
gets in
webcasting.
turn to the people who are performing want to know that more eyes and ears are going to be on them.
Yeah.
They have a better chance of performing if they're like, oh, I'm going to reach not only the people here in India where Coachella takes place, but I'm going to reach people in Europe, I'm going to reach people in Asia and in Africa, and that's going to help my bottom line and my ticket sales. If I go on tour there, it's going to help me sell merch, it's going to help me sell albums.
And you know that Coachella wants it to be awesome online. So they're going to invest in the performance. They're going to say, yes, Beyonce, you could build a catwalk and you can have a huge band and we can pre-rig, like 100 light movers to be just for your set. And then the other artists see that and they want to perform there, and everyone watching at home, they see it, they see how awesome Coachella is, and the cycle continues.
So, Ben, how has the attitude of people changed since 2016? In 2 years, when you first started pitching that and people were maybe shy or, backed off it, to now seeing what has happened with Coachella and more live streams, what is the attitude now?
I mean, people certainly opened up to it. Just remember what it was like when Facebook launched live. Like, try to remember it on your phone. And then when you could dial in through an API, like, companies were started, including myself, because I had a box that allowed you to put a camera through Facebook, right? It was like all of a sudden, instead of broadcasting, like going to cable access or pitching to networks or to get on TV, all of a sudden you could literally reach 1 billion people if you want to. There are 1 billion people on Facebook. There was nothing stopping anyone, but it was Hollywood 2.0 transition, and it was hard. A lot of these festival people are like old school music business. Like the music business is like kind of like gang mentality, mafia mentality, whatever. And also, what was a huge problem back then was rights for the music, music clearance.
Well, it's on YouTube's platform, so they can just waive that, and the artist is performing. So if they sign the paper, who cares?
Yeah.
The other thing too is even if this was on I think web is better than like network because, and I think it will obviously get there. But if this was on ABC, you wouldn't be able to watch this in the world. You don't get ABC there, and they would have to, and it would become this huge bidding war of who gets the rights and who can show it and pay, and it would only hurt the user because they won't have to see it, and then the festival gets hurt because as many people don't see it and get excited. So I think web,
and they censor it,
has helping. Yeah. I think web has helped a lot of these things. Absolutely, yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I think that it helped Coachella. I think it helped Ultra, Firefly, Hangout. Like a lot of these festivals, like Hangout's in the middle of, I don't know, Florida, Alabama, like right on the line.
And they're the festivals that have taken the risk and are now reaping the reward and so far ahead of everyone else who's now starting because now they're playing catch up.
Yeah, it's hard to catch up. Absolutely. But with web, it's not so hard. I mean, it's hard, but it's out into the ether.
So the best part of this podcast is providing the how-to for people. So how to do a webcast. And I want to start by going back and talking about the various levels of webcasting. For people who are like, I want to be able to webcast a product, and whether that product's a concert, whether it's a show, whether it's something else, the various places that they can do it, the outlets. So you're talking about, obviously, again, the biggest of the big is Coachella. You can just do it on your Instagram, and Facebook you can do live. What are the different levels and that people are using now? What are the different levels?
At your scale is what I'm curious about. At these Dancing with the Stars, at this Firefly.
Yeah.
So it's weird. I don't think there's necessarily a correlation between the really high quality ones and where they're going live to. I think everyone now, I mean, it was like YouTube, and YouTube's awesome, but I think everyone's going to Facebook because everyone has them, all age ranges, and you can see who's watching. YouTube, yes, you log in with your email, but on Facebook, you really know who's watching, and you can see it, and you can reach. So I think regardless of the scale and the quality, Facebook Live, unless something happens to that company, is where it's just going to keep on going.
And I'm pretty sure Mark Zuckerberg has things under control for at least a couple more years.
I would think so. The only thing is, and I know that you know this too, their platform is a little quirky.
Well, a lot of younger generation
They jumped in quick.
A lot of younger generation actually is going more now to like Instagram, which is still obviously Facebook, owned by the same company, but it's still a different platform.
But they haven't opened up the API yet, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Facebook, they still can't do 1080. They have things where you can't trim it. So like when you go live, if you wanted to rewatch it and you hit play, it would be from where you went live. All the other platforms, you can trim it. All things that they could basically catch up on. But I think Facebook Live is where almost all the shows that I do are. And they might go there and to YouTube at the same time. I do a lot of shows where it's like it has to go to Ustream, Facebook, and YouTube or something. But everyone's always like, it's got to be on Facebook Live.
So is Facebook and YouTube the top two?
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling me? And which one do you think in 5 years will be more advanced and higher audience?
Facebook, I think. I think YouTube is very cool. I understand it. But people will always use Facebook whether they're watching live or not, or they're watching videos. They're keeping in touch with their friends. So those people aren't going anywhere. YouTube is like, you have to be watching things. You don't have to be watching live things, but you have to be like a video watcher. Like Facebook Live, I could have zero interest whatsoever in the show that you're watching, but I see that you're watching, and I might just click it.
And don't forget
And
about
that
the push
doesn't go
notifications.
Yeah.
Facebook will send you
Yes.
a push notification, and that's remarkable
Yeah.
power.
Yeah.
So how do you start a webcast?
How do you start a webcast? Like from
From the ground
yeah.
up, you have an idea of, oh, I have this concept.
Literally, like, how
that
do
I
you get
want
into the
to-
big? Like, how did you get to direct Coachella?
Honestly, I would attribute it to I started at livestream years ago when I was like 20. I couldn't even like drink. And that was when web was really young, where everyone was like, forget about what was large or not. It was like, we just want to go live. We hear this web thing, like, we just want to go live. So live stream was one of the few platforms that had a production company too. YouTube was around. Ustream was around, but they didn't have a production company. And at the time, people were like, oh, we want to go live. And even older broadcast people were like, oh, we have to hire these webcast. Like, the secret wasn't out that you could just use your normal trucks and just hand out a program feed and then encode. So Livestream was doing jobs, in my opinion, that they may not have had business necessarily doing at the time. We did it. We executed, and it was great, and everyone there is awesome, and they've grown, and now they do like awesome things too. But at that time, it was like Barack Obama's going to interview, Mark Zuckerberg is going to interview Barack Obama at Facebook, and they're doing that show. It's like that doesn't really happen anymore. So it was like I was so young doing these things that at the time I was probably unqualified for. But you just make sure you do a really good job, and stress is good, and work there for a few years, and then it just snowballed to people knowing, oh yeah, call that guy Tom. And sometimes it would be like just to TD, just to stream, and then the name was around, and then it just, I don't know. It's interesting how it snowballs. Yeah, but if I didn't start at Livestream, I would be back where everyone else is, looking on the outside, trying to get in. I was inside, and I was like, whoa, this world is crazy. And I just hung on tight, and I left. And, you make sure you do a good job. Also, I'll say that time, live streams were happening like turnover. The quality acceptance was kind of poor.
Yeah.
So, like, people were just okay, like, oh, just bring a few cameras and we'll, like, figure it out. And I was one of the few, well, I wasn't one of the few, but I would like stress out and like ensure that I thought of everything that can improve that. Like, hey, we showed up with the cameras, and I would kind of adjust things and move things, and no one else really did that. They all had this like, hey, we're walking into a world and we're just gonna shoot what's happening. I was like, what's happening? Where is this going? Can we put a camera here? And they're like, no. Like, are you sure it would look good? I mean, I can show you what it looks like. So I was kind of trying to bring a creative thing to the webcasts that were just like cranking out things. I tried to bring a little bit of creativity to it, and I think enough people recognized that when I left.
Yeah, dude, this is why I love you. Like, we think exactly the same.
I love you too, man.
So Idol was canceled, right, in 2016, right when Facebook Live launched. I go, holy shit. The quality is so bad. No one knows what they're doing. It's so hard to do live TV.
Which is so weird.
I was like, this is amazing. Everyone from Idol is out of work right now. I'm going to take our old production managers. We're going to start a company, and we're going to go do these live streams, right?
Yeah.
So what happened? They found out how much it costs.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? They're thinking in like the low thousands, where Idol's in the millions, in the hundreds of thousands. So we'd be turning in these budgets. So people would be like, oh, I want to do an award show. Like, okay, great. Here's a $700,000 budget. They're like, what? We thought it'd be like $20,000.
Yeah, that's kind of the gift and curse of what web did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why is that? Tell me about, do they think that it's just really cheap because you just have a couple cameras? And where is the money going?
I think that, again, going back to like the early webcast days, I think that everyone, once they knew that they could go live, was like, we got to get this content out. It's so awesome. Our brand is cool. We want to advertise. We want to do whatever. And I think they were just new to broadcast, some of these people. So they're thinking low thousands. And then the people who were already in like network, when they were going like, okay, we want to do a webcast, they're thinking terrible quality. They're thinking of like the early days of like, we just want the content out. But now web, it's still the Wild West in terms of like there's no quality standard. You could just hop live. If you turn on your TV, it will be exposed. It will sound okay. If you flip between the channels, the sound level will remotely be the same. I mean, like, it has a standard. Web does not. So, and then the other thing is, I feel like people are just okay if it's not as polished because they're like, that's the show on TV. This is for the super fan, and the super fan is okay with the single camera as long as we have our talent and our personalities.
I mean, it's just what I've explained on these previous episodes, right? It's like you had, at the networks, you had the digital team and you had the TV team, right? Up here, and then all of a sudden they started meeting in the middle when everyone realized, oh my God, people are watching this more on Instagram than they are on our network. It's
kind of terrifying if you're like a big network and you're like,
oh, they're all
my
scared
God.
right now.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of this podcast. That's exactly my thesis.
Yeah.
So how many more people are watching webcast live than they are in person, do you think, or watching on a typical TV?
I don't know. I think it depends on the show, really.
Yeah.
And there are certain shows. So, like, now I think an interesting fact is, like, so Time Warner Cable or Spectrum, they re-encode all of the shows, or they like throw it on to the local news or that channel to encode, and then they pull that.
Yeah.
So it's still like a TV like network show, but I'm pretty sure they get a ton of views on the computer, mobile, Apple TV. Like that's the weird thing. It's like when you say webcast, the show like nightly news, I could turn it on the television, but I could also turn it on my Apple TV. Is that a webcast?
Yeah,
I
and it's
don't
on
know. Like,
Facebook.
what do you define
it
the
doesn't
webcast?
matter
It's like
anymore.
wherever the view kind of comes from.
It really doesn't matter.
So, yeah. That's kind of interesting.
All it really means, in my opinion, is that it's not necessarily going through a gatekeeper like an NBC, but it's also not being funded by a gatekeeper like NBC.
That's the other downside. That's kind of the gift and curse. It's like these don't have a lot of money. Always. Sometimes they do.
Even the Coachella one I heard has a shit budget.
For what they're doing, yes, but it's a huge budget. But, like, you're right. I think if it was on network television, it might have twice the budget. I mean,
oh, no doubt.
At least, yeah.
Twice the budget, twice the
jibs. The hosts would be, it would be like Tom. I mean, I don't know if Tom Bergeron would host Coachella or something, but it would be like bigger talent, more cameras probably. I don't know. I mean, they have a ton of cameras. I mean,
what I'm trying to wonder, and this is, I really don't know the answer to this. Do people that don't see it with our eyes notice? What do you think? Do you notice, Michael?
Like, notice a quality difference?
Yeah. Like, would you notice the difference between a Coachella stream and something that was on like the VMAs?
You might notice a little bit just because, with a bigger budget comes maybe just a slightly crisper camera or more shades and lighting differences. Quality-wise of the specific content, from like an audio standpoint or from actually what you're hearing and getting, no. Because I think it's caught up. And I think about that, too, with like the VMAs and the red carpets. I mean, all those have Facebook. I think it's T-Mobile again. T-Mobile there is one of the sponsors of like the VMA Lives hosted by, at the red carpet. I'm trying to think of, I know there's like AJ, there's specific hosts now, friends of mine, AJ Gibson, who does, he's one of the hosts for VMAs, for all the other ones that are T-Mobile, and they have these live Facebook shows. And the quality is exactly the same.
Yeah. I think
and they're winning Emmys, by the way.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, it's interesting that the web shows can't win an Emmy. They have a Webby, but there are some web shows that are pretty huge. But I think at that scale, you can't really tell the difference. But, again, web is the Wild West. So when you say webcast, it's like, of course you can tell the difference if it's a lower show. I think what you were alluding to is like the smaller shows, do you think the average viewer who's online is like, oh, there's a camera mistake, I'm not watching anymore? And I think it depends on what the content is.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it's, I've done live shows where it's like a comedian on a couch and they're chit-chatting, and, you know, some of the cameras don't even have an operator on it, and it's cool, and everyone absolutely
Kinda like this
is
show.
in love with it. Yeah, right?
But on the other end of the spectrum, I think that it almost feels more personal, and so they don't expect as high of a
Unplugged,
quality. Yes,
yeah.
unplugged, exactly.
It's kind of like
if it
a
was
musician
too high of a quality,
just playing on the
yeah,
acoustic
if it was
is
too high of a
cooler,
quality,
yeah.
then you wouldn't feel like you're there.
Yeah,
You
it would
feel
feel
like
a little
it'd be
too
too
produced.
produced.
Yes, exactly. Whereas if you're watching a TV show, they have a jib that comes in and out on the crowd, and they come out, and all the cameras are on PEDs, and they kind of move as they talk, and it looks great. But I think you're right, and I don't think people really care, which is weird. I think that
Like,
drives.
I want them to care. I really do.
I obviously want them to care too. I'm a director, but I think it depends on the content, and sometimes it is a little depressing at times in pre-production or on site or something. You're like, oh, can we? And they're like, no, we can't. I'm like, you know, it kind of takes the wind out of your
So
sails.
the biggest thing that is a hurdle, it seems, is monetary. And the budget that you're getting, and I think that is probably because they're looking at the money that they're making. And like I'm saying, T-Mobile is still sponsoring it, and I think we've talked about this on past episodes, where the digital money versus the actual TV money is still hugely different. How do you make money on a webcast, a live stream?
Well, like, I was going straight up to brands. I would go to these conferences, and all their CMOs would be there, and I'd go up to them, and I'd be like, hey, I'm talking to this festival right now. Would you be interested in sponsoring? Yeah, we'll connect you. And so we get on the call, and we're like, okay, we budgeted this out for, I don't know, 300, 400,000. They're like, we got like 35 for you.
Yeah,
You know, it's like,
you
it's
work with that.
yeah, it's hard to, or at least in 2016, it was hard to get money from brands. But what they're realizing now is that brands can fund their own content and be just as powerful as the networks, like we talked in the last episode, right?
Well, yeah. Well, they're putting stuff out on their own outlets and network, whether it's their own Facebook pages, whether it's their own websites, and they're acting as the host, and so they don't have to pay money to be the host, and they're using it as promotion for their own products, whether that's their own shows, whether that's actually an individual product, and I think that is, you know, a benefit to them of actually owning the content.
Yeah.
But if you're like a Coachella, I mean, Coachella is monetizing by brand deals, by sponsorships.
They're running ads.
They're selling within the stream. They're selling merch.
That's true, actually. Yeah. And I will say, we're not there yet, but I've seen shows and things where so I did this years ago when I was at Livestream. Target had like a back to school ad campaign thing, and it was a live stream 24/7 for a whole week, and kids lived in like a dorm room, and it was just a set.
Yeah.
And it was a lock off shot, and there were like 8 sets. So in the set,
It was like
if
Big
you
Brother?
scrolled, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you scrolled your mouse over the product in the room, in their dorm room, you could basically purchase it. So you scrolled
Interesting.
over the lamp. You can't do that on network TV.
Yeah.
You scrolled over the lamp. You're like, hey, you like this lamp? Click it. You like the bed cover? You like the carpet? That is maybe another. I mean, it's a harder way to monetize, but I think it's a cooler. Or if you're playing a song, you know, a thing kind of pops up like, hey, do you want to purchase a song in your iTunes? You're already on your phone or something. So I think there's ways to advance it. Every once in a while, a brand kind of does that. Like, I think Target did a really cool job with that because the viewership was low.
Yeah.
No one like sat and watched these kids. But when you clicked, you watch, and you scroll, and you're like, hang on a second, my mouse, and you can click. I'm sure they got some people to buy stuff online.
And I think that leads into one of the biggest pros of webcasts and live streaming is the interaction that you can have.
The data, back and forth.
Talk about
yeah.
that.
Dude, you don't even understand. Like this all just hurts my heart right now. Because before I pivoted to running digital teams and deploying these special operations, like I had all this locked down. Okay, I had all the decks, and we even developed technology to do motion tracking of ads, like on stage, clickable, computer vision. Like it was all there. I didn't know how to run a company. You know,
Yeah.
I was weeks, months into running a company. I just had all these ideas, had no funding, and you know, I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. But it's all there, and I think that it is coming, and we are going to see it in a much sooner time period.
Oh, the interaction that you have, which
Oh,
is the
yeah.
big benefit
Oh,
of live
right.
streaming, like you're saying. Where
It's a two-way. Exactly. Sorry. So that was also one of the main sells of selling to brands and selling to concerts. It's like it's not a one-way. Like you're putting it out. It's completely two-way. Like people are in a chat room chatting about what's going on. Right? They can interact. They can message each other.
And
they
the
can send each
producer
other.
can see if it's bored, if the viewer's like, oh my God, everyone's so bored. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Like we even had technology. My friend worked for the Department of Defense where we could have everyone stream from their cell phone and allow the viewer to like almost have like a 360 view of all the angles and switch from the cell phones.
That's creepy.
Yeah, I mean this stuff is probably coming,
cool.
and so at least I'll be on record now to say we tried.
You reminded me of something where web, because we were online, it like instantly changed our show. So Macy's Day Parade, I do like a VR 360 show. We have 8 cameras along the route. We have like hosts and things like that. While we're live, we had a lot of like prompter copy. And everyone in the chat was like, I just want to see the parade. No more talking. And instantly the producer came into the control room and he's like, hey guys, cut the script in half, like more of the parade. And I think network could do that to a certain extent, but not quite the same. The other thing too is I think even if it's a network TV show, you're gonna watch it on an Apple TV or something, which allows it, even though it's not a webcast. As I said, the main actor walks in the room and they're wearing a jacket. If you're in the middle of the show, you could hit the option button and see what's happening and then click it. That's a two-way data thing.
And I'll let you in a little secret. So all these big shows that were around have Twitter producers. They're constantly monitoring Twitter, seeing what's going on.
Interesting, yeah.
At the end
So
of the
they're
night,
using Twitter
all
as
of these
a
reports are generated about social sentiment. You know, Nielsen charges so much money, and they're aggregating all the data, all the sentiment. What were people saying?
They'll be out of business pretty soon, right? I mean, why would you need Nielsen? Seriously, if it's on Facebook Live and you can see the count, you can see who they are and where they're from and who they're friends with, and they like Nike brand. So during the ad roll, we're going to roll them a Nike ad as opposed to an Adidas one or something.
Not only is the engagement and interaction a possible upside, it's a necessity at this point.
Oh, yeah.
You need to be able to engage. If you're doing a live webcast, if you're putting content out there, you need to have that in mind of engaging with the other person. You need to take that initiative.
Yes. So a lot of webcasts, in my opinion, if you're live online, you have to have that, because I do a lot of shows where like they'll ask you to chat in and they'll be like, tell us what you think with hashtag blah, blah, blah. And they don't answer a question. They don't show the tweets. If you're doing a live red carpet show, you can use people in the crowd there. They're online, they're going live, they're posting pictures, and celebrities on their way over in the limo when they arrive on the carpet, they're doing their own thing. So on your show, you could show a tweet that, you know, Dwayne Johnson posted that he's on the carpet and he's like this. And even though you don't have a camera there, you can be like, hey, we know The Rock's here. And then the picture could kind of come up. So it's like webcasts, you may not have the same budget, but there are tools that you can do to really spice up your show and give an interaction or have a poll.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
there are some amazing vendors. Telescope is my favorite.
Tagboard. Sorry.
Oh,
I'm
really?
a Tagboard. Tagboard.
What these companies do is they somehow negotiated fire hoses into Twitter, which is incredible. So like they have
and
a
Instagram
line
and all that. Yeah.
Well, do you know this?
What?
I mean, just a couple weeks ago, months ago, Instagram and Facebook cut it off, or at least Instagram did. Like, we weren't getting any data on Instagram because of the privacy scandal. Remember that?
Interesting.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so Instagram was by far and away our best platform, right? But it wasn't registering on Nielsen, which was really hurting us in social ratings. But anyways, these companies have fire hoses in. So let's give an example. Like, remember when we had the Twitter save on American Idol, right? So we'd say, here are the bottom 2 contestants. You can save one during the break. Use hashtag this guy or hashtag this girl. And so everyone posts a hashtag at that point, and somehow this fire hose aggregates it all in real time, and we deliver the result to
count the number.
Ryan, and then that person would be saved.
Yeah. So Tagboard can do more with visual views in the sense of you can like a tweet or a post and send it to a queue, and you can queue up all of these things. You can change the order quickly, and you can change it however you want, but you can change the view in the sense of, like, I want this to come in as a lower third. I want it to come in as a full page. I want it to dissolve in. I want it to do an animation in. You can change the color. You can change the background. Like, on the fly, you can change the font. You can change the text.
So you're just talking about pulling in social posts, right?
Yes, but Tagboard also does a visual element where you don't need to use, like, an expression or a graphics machine.
Okay.
So it does, like, you can be moderating and queuing it up, and then another person can be choosing how it goes out. Is it a lower third? Where is it? What's the size? What's the background? You know, is it full screen? Is it 3 posts and 3 down at the same time? So it's got kind of like a 6 post thing. I feel like Telescope, you can't do that as quickly, and it's more like if you're in a conference, you can have a big wall of all the posts. I think it's good for that. But if you're going to integrate into, like, the broadcast, like, we need that graphic in right now, Tagboard is I can show you the Tagboard app.
Should we dumb this down a little bit, Michael?
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
I mean, I'm following it a little bit. Obviously, it goes with
the people.
engagement
Yeah.
for people who are watching a show. And like
Yeah.
you're saying, you want to be able to tweet at this person, or choose this or choose that. This seems like the gathering service, right? That
here's how it works in the big
putting it
control
out.
rooms, right? Or the EVS or whatever. Tell us
Sure.
that process, and then tell us about this new process.
Okay, so I'm doing a live show, multicam show. I'm going to cut to you because you're about to speak, and I have to lay in your lower third.
Is this a live show on TV or webcast or either?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah. So, ready, camera 2, take 2, open CG, fly it in. So, what just happened there? There's a person only doing graphics.
Yep.
There's a producer alongside of them telling them, like, that's his name. It's not spelt right. So when I say open CG, or they know that I'm going to go to you, I'll just be like, hey, is this CG ready? Yep, it's ready. Open it, meaning, like, open the DSK font. So the TD hits that. And then the graphics operator hits the button to fly it in. Okay. So there's like 3 or 4 people that have to do that. And then there's a producer that's like, that's not spelt right or something like that.
Yeah.
So, and then I have to tell it to fly out.
Yep.
And he animates it out, and then the TD has to close that channel so we don't accidentally show something else. So he can continue to work, right? So Tagboard, so traditionally, if you have a tweet, that graphics operator needs to copy paste. Or worse yet, view, type, check it, change how it looks. They only used 10 characters, so there's all this empty space, and they got to move it down, and they got to center justify it. So it's a tax, and you can't really get a tweet out. Like, by the time the tweet happened and it's cool, the moment's kind of gone, and then you're spelling things wrong. It's kind of a mess. So Tagboard, you would still use that graphics operator because you're doing a live show. I'm going to want to put your name in. I'm going to want to say, like, live from Culver City, you know. But when it comes to social, Tagboard will allow as many people as you want on your phone, on your Mac to say, I like that, I like that, I like that, I like that, and it all gets queued up in a bin.
Interesting.
And then the producer can go, okay, we're going to go to our host, and you're going to read 3 tweets. And so the 3 tweets are lined up. Everything gets pushed over to the other bin, and it's just ready to go. You don't have to change it. You don't have to spell it. It already has your graphics, already has your like moving template in the backdrop. You don't have to add it. And so you go, okay, guys, we're going to check out the tweets. And I throw to it, and I just say advance, and you hit the space bar. And it goes, and then you read, and then I go advance, advances, and that's it. And I don't tie up the graphics operator, because if we're doing a sports game, he's queuing up the scoreboard, he's queuing up the stats for the next batter or something. There's no need to tie up a person to send in some tweets. So that's why I think Tagboard is so cool. And you can have as many templates as you want. So you could have a ticker up the whole entire show. Just set up that Mac, and it's on there.
You'll start noticing this now when you watch
yeah.
this. But this goes back to what I tell you. Like, live television production is very difficult. Like, I bet a lot of people had no idea. Like, that's all of that work went into one little tweet you see on screen, right?
Yeah.
And that's why, like, everyone who tried to start live streaming didn't really succeed at it.
Right. Also, I think you kind of tapped into an important point. I think a lot of new people got into it because they thought that it's a cheaper thing. So brands who aren't doing live shows, if you're like a makeup company, right? You're used to hiring a production company, you film, you do take 2, let's get the inserts, powder my face, I got the line wrong. Those people aren't used to doing the live shows, so when streaming comes out and it's cool and it's cheaper, they all want to do it, and they're expecting the 10 grand or something, or like 30 grand, and then they're going like, oh, well, why is it so expensive? Like, they don't know. It's not their fault. They don't do a live show, so they don't know. And then they go in cheap, and then it looks awful, and then everyone's nervous, and the prompter's not working, and things. So it's just a live show is kind of like sports. Like, you've kicked off the ball, you're gonna miss some shots, you're gonna have some awesome shots, but it's like, you're not stopping that game. It's happening. Whether you're down 20 points or 1 point, whether you're just like, oh my God, I want to get off the field. We're down by 20. Like, you're just like, nope, you play on that field. We have another 10 minutes left. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But that's why it's awesome, because it's intense and it's a sport. And when it's done, it's a rush. It's great.
Yeah. And like, it takes a long time to get it down. That's why there are only a couple hundred people in LA, and it all comes out of LA, who know how to do it properly. They call them the live TV mafia, right? Everyone is doing the Oscars, the Emmys, the VMAs, the SPs. It's all the same people. It's all the same operators. It's all the same prompter operators. It's all the same guys running cables, building the stages. Like, it is such a niche market because it's so hard. They're all pretty old people, like 40s, 50s, 60s, because they've been doing it so long. And no one else is like, they're union guys. Like, no one's dethroning them, if you will, because they're so good. Correct. No one wants to, right?
You have to die, or they have to get tired of it and then retire, which is tough because it's addicting and it's so fun. I mean,
exactly.
Try telling an athlete to retire. They're probably like, oh, I love playing the game. It's
but is there more opportunities coming because more people are doing live?
I think there's more opportunities because of webcasting, and I'll give you a perfect example. Esports gaming.
Yes.
That just came out because of webcasting, and now there's a lot of work. They need camera guys. They need social media producers to advertise and do the thing. They need the directors. So it's interesting
That's already
that
booked
it's
for a future episode, by the way. There you go. Blizzard Entertainment.
Blizzard. Oh, nice. Awesome.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. So it's just, I think it creates work, but just like anything else, it floods the market and kind of dilutes some things because anyone can go live.
Yep.
So again, it has that like, hey, Tom, I want to hire you. We're doing a webcast. And in my head, I go, what does that mean? Does that mean, a broadcast thing, we're in a truck, or does this mean it's me and a switcher and I'm pushing all? I mean, like, that's where we are with it.
The simplistic nature, I want to get your take. Fortnite. People are doing live streaming of Fortnite. What are both of your thoughts on that as terms of webcasting and live video?
I haven't seen it. I've watched a lot of esports. I haven't seen specifically Fortnite, but I will say, even if you're not into the game, it's pretty entertaining. It is pretty cool because they're amazing at the game. So if you're watching like a shooting game or something and they're awesome and they're hiding behind things and they're jumping in the car and they're getting out and they're blowing stuff up and they're going in, it's cool to watch. Like, I do think it's gonna be, I think this might be too bold. I don't think ESPN is gonna have to, but I think there's gonna have to be an esports reckoning at some point because it's a sport. It's cool. There are teams and they're competing and it can be intense and it's fun.
Yeah, it's democratized. It's really easy to do to stream.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
it has to be in
who's to
1080p
say like
60 though. That's
any
the
content's
issue.
better than the next.
Yeah.
It's the market that's going to decide. The market's already been very clear that people want to watch it.
Well, I think that's as simple as it gets. I mean, those are literally one person with a camera doing something that they're good at and interacting with their fans.
Well,
you don't even need a camera.
This
play
goes
video games.
back to what I was saying too. What is a webcast? I've seen people that do that. It's a webcam. But then we've seen esports where it's an arena. It's a broadcast show. And there's a host and welcome in, Fortnite tournament, once a year. And here are our contestants. And they bring up the tail of the tape and it's got like, it's crazy the scales you can go. It's like, oh, I'm webcasting my esports game. It's like, what does that mean? Is that you with your webcam, or is this an arena with thousands of people there also in attendance? It's really crazy.
So what's the starter pack? Someone wants to
Starter
webcast
pack.
and be able to put content out there.
Yeah.
What would you recommend starter pack?
No joke. If you're the way that you worded the question, they want to get their content out, I would hire another company. I would not buy your own things. If you're looking to get your content out, I would not get into the live streaming business because live is just its own thing. It's like, if you're a brand, I would just hire another company because there's so many things that
If
could
you're
go
a
wrong.
brand,
It's so funny.
If you're a brand and you have to care about brand safety, remember what we were saying
I would
last
hire a
episode.
company. Yeah.
You have to. The reason brands allow with networks is because they trust the level of content that's going to come out there. They know it's going to attract eyeballs. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Right. So if you want to uphold those standards, then you should hire a company and that way. But I mean, like, just like any other type of content, anyone can make on their cell phone. If you want to go live on your cell phone, go for it. You get 10 million people watching you live on your cell phone. You never know.
I'm sure it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Twitch is the outlet.
Twitch is the big gaming one.
Okay.
Yeah. So actually, a lot of platforms like PS4, while you're playing your game, there's a button to go live on Twitch. You just hit it and you're live on Twitch. Like, that's how quick that is now.
And people are making millions of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
It's wild.
It's crazy. And they're not broadcasting. They're not broadcast people. They're not crew guys. They're just on the. So it's the Wild West.
Yeah.
Wild West Web, www.
And like trying to fit all of
keep
live
saying it.
streaming into one podcast episode, it's like trying to fit all of TV, right?
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
we could sit here for hours and hours and days and days because there's so many levels, just like there's so many levels of TV. And
But I think we've done a good job in our time of being able to talk about the various levels, talking about the incredibly high budget, multi-cam, multi-production team, Coachella, all the way down to what we just talked about, the single cam person who's out of frame on Twitch with their cell phone.
Yeah.
But the industry is moving in that direction. There's no question about it.
yeah, but the point of why I said that though is because everyone just says, "Oh, it's a live stream." They don't realize that it's such a broad topic. And
Correct.
So that's what I
Correct.
was going for
Yeah.
when I said that.
Yeah, that's what I meant too. But I do think if you're gonna approach it and brands want to, I think you just need to be real about how much you have to spend and get real about what you can do. I think people they have these grand ideas and they don't have the money and they try and do it and then it looks lame and then you hurt your brand more. I think just like recognize how much you're willing to spend and cater to that, and make that as awesome as possible. I feel like a lot of times with web, people get complacent in like pre-production and they're just like, oh, we'll have the gear there. It's like, no, make it as good. Like you can have a turd, but you can polish it. Like, it's just, there's a lot you can do about it. And, I think people just want to go live as quickly as possible. And that's its own kind of market too. Like, hey, I'm live on my iPhone and I'm here. And that's awesome. But if you're going to do a live multicam show, you need to take the time to put it together right.
2 pieces of advice as we close from each of you about web streaming live video. What do you got for brands, for people, either or? 2 pieces of advice from each of you. What do you say?
Make sure you have good audio. People
Okay.
really neglect audio. Just as important as video. I'll go one. You can.
I would say I'll approach it from kind of a director's aspect too. Shoot it to help the content in mind, kind of like a movie. If it calls for a lock off camera and you know, like embrace that, like have your talent come close to it, have them change their distance to the camera and have it be fun. But if the content calls for handheld, if that's what it is, then I would go for it. So I would just say, like, try not to lock yourself into like, we're going to go live and here's a camera on a tripod. Okay, cool. It's going to be great. Like really try and think about who's watching, what the content is, and how you can help that from like a creative aspect. It's tough to think of like
Dude, I don't on the spot.
Yeah.
I got one.
I mean, there's so many. I mean, obviously, like good audio, but like you're
I know.
obviously
I
talking.
was just
no.
No,
but
I thought that was a good
that's
one.
a
That
good
we
one,
haven't
but
talked about, 'cause
to the tier that's lower, which
I
is
know.
a lot of people, and it's like, who am I giving advice to?
I know.
A-
We need to
as
split this up. We
said,
need to do 10
it's-
live stream
It's
episodes.
a webcast. It's
Yeah.
like, do I give advice to the
crazy.
really big? Okay, I have a good one. What's the other one I could say? Okay, I would say this is advice for all scales, right? Because like I don't want to necessarily give a technical advice because you could be like a really huge one. I would say do not assume that if you build it, they will come and watch. Do your social media
So good.
homework. If you're going live on Facebook, don't just go live on that and expect that they're going to watch. Like if you know, you're doing a stream for Beyonce, make sure she shares that link on her page. Don't just be like, oh, we're live and that's it. Like all these people are just going to come flooding in. You need to tease it a week before, maybe a month before. You don't want to post way too much because you don't want people to just be like, oh my God, I'm not going to watch this. Right before you go live, if it's Beyonce, you want her to post a picture like just before she goes on. Really excited to do the thing. Here's our link. I feel like a lot of people get this talent and get this thing to do this webcast, and they spend all this cash, and they don't utilize their Twitter followers, Facebook followers, and everyone as an individual. And when it doesn't go well, they get a bad taste in their mouth and they go, well, we don't want to webcast anymore. And that hurts everybody.
they forget about that last step. They overlook the last step that's the most important.
It's
of getting
so
content
important.
out.
How are we going to get views? If you go live, people will not automatically watch.
I know. That's such a good point, dude. Everyone just expects,
Yeah.
okay, we'll just go live.
Yeah, we'll have
like,
Katy
no.
Perry on the show and it'll be great. And people will see it. Well, did Katy Perry tease that she was going to be on the show? You're live now. Is she going to post a link?
Well, there are some really good
It's like-
vendors. Amp Live, you've heard of them?
Yes.
So what they'll do is they'll buy space on like rollingstone.com and like all over the place. And you'll say, hey, I want to reach 100,000 people. They'll say, okay, it's going to cost this much money. And they'll keep populating
Yeah.
their real estate until you get to that number.
Well, it's also like it's not just the social media campaign and your host and your talent. It's also like try and tag things. Like if we're doing a podcast here, you would tag podcast. You would tag other things. What are some popular podcasts? Maybe tag those because someone's searching those. There's a game to the search queue thing too. It's not absolutely dire important, but like it's not this like no one will watch unless you tell them, no matter what.
Ben, number 2 for you.
Make it a two-way conversation, right? It's like TV
once you're
one way,
actually live.
Yeah. Once you're live, like involve the viewer, like let them play along, like ask them questions, ask them what they want to see next, ask them what they want like Adele to sing next. Like you have that power to completely engage the user, and that user will then in turn watch for a longer time, which in turn will make the brands happier, which in turn will make everyone more money.
I want to make a point on what you just said. So Dancing with the Stars All Access, the Halloween show, right? The week prior, we asked everyone online, who do you want our host to dress up as? A cheerleader, a zombie, whatever. So we did a poll at the end of the show because it's an interactive show. We go, okay, and the winner is, and it was a tie between a cheerleader and a zombie. And then the fans were like, be a zombie cheerleader. So the next day he was a cheerleader that was like a dead zombie cheerleader. So it's like, if you include that poll, everyone was like talking about it. Yes. They thought it was hilarious. They heard my vote. It was a tie and they decided to be cool and combine it. It's like, it only helps you. Like, even if it's not a webcast, like the proper network broadcast show, like why can't they just see like, and vote for who you want me to be? Like, I don't know why you're not interacting with people. They hate the one-way thing. If they wanted that, they would watch a movie.
People are
and
social
that engagement
creatures.
will go far beyond the actual content because, like you're saying, people are talking the next day. They're not watching it the next day,
in person,
but they're talking
to
with
their
friend,
friends.
and then the friend is like, "Oh my goodness, I want to see that," and they're talking, and then engagement expands.
Yeah, don't forget if you're liking
they
someone on
share it.
Facebook.
Yeah,
That's
They
then
see it.
showing up on
Yeah,
other
yeah.
people's feeds. Just because they're commenting and liking, that's already populated more feeds, and it's a snowball effect.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. The WWW, the Wild Wild Web.
Wild web streaming or wild webcasts, WWWC. I don't know. We'll probably have to lay that down later.
We'll put that on
We'll come
our
back
Twitter,
to you guys. Yeah.
And we'll
we'll let the
poll
fans
going
vote.
and
Yeah,
let the fans
right.
vote.
We'll get a
there
vote
we
going.
go. Well, that wraps up episode 3 of the Vigo Show. Thank you so much for coming in, Tom.
Thank you.
Tom Sullivan, where can they find you on social media?
Tom Sullivan LA, I think, on Instagram. I'm not huge on, I know we just had this big conversation about social media. I'm not huge, but I'm not doing the live show.
I already yelled at him.
Yeah. Ben only yelled at me about it. I'm not doing a live show, but I do sell myself because I'm a freelance director.
All right. So, Ben Ganz, where can they find you on social media?
Vigo Ben on Instagram, baby.
Vigo Ben on
There
Instagram.
you go. And we're constantly posting clips of the Vigo Show on
Always.
Instagram as well. So
It's on
like,
YouTube
comment,
too.
share. It's on YouTube. Getting that content around. Tell a friend. Again, this content is free. All we ask is that you tell someone about it, that you
Gotta
share.
tell 'em.
Hope you guys are learning something. Obviously, this episode, learning about webcasting. The master Tom brought his stuff. Tom, we appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
I'm shaking your hand, Tom.
Oh,
That's
oh,
what this
okay.
is.
I was kind of doing a hang loose, but I'll switch it up for a handshake.
Fantastic. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time.